Hi everybody, Laura here. We are going to take a look at issue number 4 today. Or I'm going to do one of the worksheets in here with you. And it's based on, the reason I chose issue number 4 is I sent out an email a couple weeks ago and talked about my season of Ebbs. Sorry for the glare. It's just a high gloss cover in black, and so that's just going to reflect the lights. But you can order, there's a link below, you can order issue number 4 if you don't have it. And you can also, when you get it, you can download all of the worksheets that are in here. But you don't have to have it to kind of benefit from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this article by Christine Caston called Empowering Seasons of Ebb and Flow. And I wrote an email about this, and of all the articles in all of my issues, even though when I first put it in, it wasn't my favorite in the sense of there's always one that is like an ooh or an ah, just really draws you in. But this is the one that I come back to all the time. I've read this one more than any of the other articles in any of my other magazine issues. Not that they aren't all great, in my opinion, but this one has been very applicable for me. So I think when we read magazines, we like the stories and we like the cute little things. Whereas this one was really relatable and useful for my life and for everybody's life, really. And so it is the one that I refer to most often. And I just came off of a time of about 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, where I went into a season of what's called Ebbs, kind of when you pull back, because we're constantly giving, or we're constantly getting input. I mean, we watch tons of videos, we read books, we listen to podcasts and sermons and teachings and speeches, and there's constantly stuff coming into us, and we don't take that time to absorb what's coming in. And that's really the purpose of an ebb. And then the flow is a season of when we're giving out and we're outputting based on what was coming in. And they're both very vital in our lives. And it's knowing there's wisdom in knowing what kind of season you're in. And we can be in multiple ebbs and flows in our day-to-day lives. We can be in an ebb time, work-wise, but creatively a flow time. Maybe you have a season in your life when your family needs you more than they ever have, and that's a flow time for you. But then you might need to step back and take an ebb from family, but you're flowing in work. So this article really hits home on recognizing those things so that we can really make the most of those seasons. So what I've done is I've gone through, and what I want to do with you is kind of highlight some of the things I enjoyed about this and then do this worksheet with you. So one of the things I love about our magazine and that I'm really intentional with is I want you guys to, when you read something, whether it's fun or it's a little more serious, I want you to be able to apply it. And I know there's other magazines with worksheets, and a lot of times we don't do it, and that's okay. But coming back to it later it might come to mind, hey, I think there's something in that magazine that can be really helpful for me right now. So I really wanted to just kind of go through this. Last time I did one of these, we looked at issue number 1, and what we did is I kind of did some scrapbooking, in terms of coloring in and highlighting and writing notes within the article. And I did that with you guys online. If you haven't, or in a video, it's on YouTube. And so if you haven't seen that yet, you can go back and do it. But really, I want to go through each of these articles in the magazines with you so that we can grow together. And if you really want a deeper dive, then I invite you to join our Unveiled community. because there's so much depth in these magazines, which is why I call it a thought-provoking magazine, because it really is. It can be as shallow or as deep as you want to be. Okay, so and a time of ebb is really a time for reflection. And so right here, it says on the worksheet, getting the most out of our life comes with understanding when we are in a season of ebb or flow. And an ebb is a time to absorb what you've been taking in and rest. Remind yourself there's a time for everything. This is a time to rest and reflect. So I have some notes here from, I think, last year that I did this. When did this come out? January. So this would have been in February was the first time I did it. Not quite a year. So it'll be interesting to go back and do it today with you guys when I've just come off 3 weeks of taking a break. So it says here, create boundaries for downtime. And I did that. I had to, and I know you guys can't see my face, but so what I did is I just kind of reached out to my friends and I said, look, this was the first week in August. And I said, I'm going to kind of go dark until Labor Day. And all my friends were very supportive. They're like, great. Yeah, that's awesome. And I didn't connect with them. Occasional text here and there, but we didn't get together or call each other or anything like that during that time. And so ahead of time, I created that boundary. And then I knew that I would not even think about Paola Lane particularly. Things needed to be done, but I knew I needed that break. And so I did that. And so number 2 is give yourself permission to say no. And that's exactly what I did. Is I had to be okay because I knew I was empty, and make it a time of reflection. And it really was for me. I did a lot of sitting and I did other things. I mean, I took naps every day. So I'm going to put on here nap time. And those ended up being really wonderful. I wanted to read more than I did. I had gotten all these books to read during my ebb time. And what happened was every time I opened the book, I fell asleep. And pour into yourself, not for work or creative purposes, but personal recharging. And for me, that ended up being painting. I spent a lot of time painting. So if you've read issue number 6, you know that in producing issue number 6, I took some paint classes just to kind of help me get in the mindset I needed to write that issue. And I ended up falling in love with painting. And I discovered that that is a place for me to ebb. So here's an example for short ebbs. So I can't do it every day, but my goal is to every day spend an hour painting. And so that is a short season of ebb within my day because I've learned that it helps me flow better in the afternoon. So, I'm just going to write here, ebb can be moments in a day. And honestly, I think that's really what we need on a daily basis in order to flow better, and then we can flow more efficiently. And so this is really generic. So I'm going to put on here something very specific. So paint 1 hour a day is a way that I could ebb every day. Another one is to walk. This is the way I kind of do it. I walk 3 times a day. And I try to do 1 mile. And this would be a flow for if, maybe my goal is to be healthier, which it is, that should always be. So a flow is to walk 3 miles a day for my health. But in a sense, it's an ebb from work. So does that make sense? So you're really addressing two birds with one stone. And when we realize that, we can really embrace that time. And it helps me step away. So now when I'm walking, instead of, I can really mentally, so I'm going to say here, mentally take a break. And so that's how it can be an ebb, is just stepping away, and then I can come back and I can be more creative. Um, the first, I said pour into yourself, and then the fifth one, and these are things that Christine sent us with her article: spend time in prayer, reflection, and meditation. And so I do that. Like when I go for walks, I pray, or I'm trying to be quiet, but I find that in the back of my mind, like subconsciously, I'm actually probably sorting through things that I can't otherwise figure out. Same with painting. When I'm painting, I don't think about work, but in a way I am, because I'm like, I need to sort. A lot of times I'll say I need to sort through. I tell myself this particular issue, I need some ideas, but then I just grab my paintbrush and I'm just painting. I'm not thinking about that. And so I'm allowing my brain to actually work through that, our subconscious is always doing something. So I am allowing my brain to sort through and figure out solutions. And for those of you I'm as a believer in Jesus, that's a way for my spirit to just be quiet and allow the Holy Spirit talk to me. And and that's how we come up with ideas, is really, that's how God speaks to us. And a lot of times we think it's other ways, but it's when we're quiet in our spirit, in our soul. And that's what ebb does. So the question is, consider if you are or should be in a season of ebb, and what are some specific ways you can enjoy this time? And more importantly, how can you protect your time of ebb? So I wrote, schedule it like an appointment, which can be really hard. I was talking about this with a friend this morning. We can schedule moments of quiet, but there are certain aspects of our lives that are extremely important, like our family. And so sometimes our family needs us and it will never fit within that scheduled time. And that's okay. But it is good to know, like, so what I do is I time block. And I paint 1 hour a day, but I don't have a specific hour set aside for that, because I need some flexibility in my day for things that happen, phone calls, or, I just need to be quiet in the morning, or I'm answering emails in the morning, or I'm making breakfast and cleaning up. And I don't always get done at the same time. I just know that between my morning routine and when I really start working, I'm going to give myself an hour. So if that's at 11 or at 1, whenever that is, there's an hour that I paint. And it's not every day yet, but at least I'm making progress. Embrace silence was the other thing I wrote down months ago. And I did that this time. It was really hard at first because I felt guilty for being quiet. But I really was able to be silent. And the way I put down here to kind of facilitate that silence was puzzles, crafts, schedule a massage. But what has happened, even though I thought through it, ended up what happening is I discovered painting. And then it wasn't an effort anymore to find that time of ebb, because now it became, since I discovered painting and it's become a love and it's such a joy and a delight, something I really, really like doing, it is now easy to say that is my time of ebb, and I'm going to make that a priority. So I'm making a hobby, which is actually helping me with my business. I am making something that I truly enjoy, a vital part of my day. Now, I have to be careful to not make it a have to and, a hard schedule, because then it becomes work. So there needs to be that protection of that as well. And I'm just sharing with you things that I am learning. And I'm so grateful for this article and for Christine and sharing this. So let me share a couple of the quotes that I highlighted when I was reading it. Just like the damage brought by a raging spring river, the need for constant input will eventually wear me out and leave me feeling empty. I can easily end up flooded and eroded from the force of overcommitment and constant information. I think we can all relate to that. And so when I was putting this together, when I choose images, I choose things that reflect the emotion behind what is being shared. So obviously, I just had this very subtle theme. Well, the whole issue was a very subtle and subdued. It was supposed to be black and white completely, but when I found these images of the icebergs in the water, the blue just like pulled me in. And so I grabbed that blue green, that turquoise or that dark blue, and that Nordic blue is what I call it. And I put it in accents within the magazine. And in here, it's not fully black and white, but I pulled back the saturation so that the color was barely there because to me, and this article fit perfectly, times of ebb is that it's like just turning down the saturation and kind of turning down, putting on the dimmer, and so that other things can come forward. Because when it's not a colored picture like this being it's not fully black and white, but it's desaturated till it's almost black and white, you start to then notice more details. You notice the bubbles and the foam, and it looks like marshmallow. And now you're starting to see the grain in the sand. Sorry, I just finished with my painting session. I literally do paint every day, so I still have paint on my hands. Anyway, so now you start to see other details. Now you start to see the shape of the flower instead of just pretty white flowers with green and brown and other colors in the background. Now you see a shape, and now you see how this one's really in focus and these aren't, and you start to feel what's behind it. And that's what I think I've tried to say is when we take that moment to ebb, like when I'm painting and I said, my subconscious is working through things. That's what's happening. We're turning off the color, and now we're letting different aspects of our brain to function and to work and to start connecting in there. And I am not a scientist. I am only going off of life experiences, but I'm sure if there's some scientific studies out there, they would probably find this to be really true, that we activate our brain. And maybe there are some studies out there. Another quote, she said, as my ability to live in peace within my ebb or flow grows, I remove myself from a pressured and hurried existence to find satisfaction, wisdom, and hope in my journey. And oh my goodness, is this true? And I want to say this, give yourself grace. So when I first talked to Christine about ebbs and flows and then read her article, you just like a toddler having or a baby having to learn to eat or walk or whatever, we have to give ourselves grace to know that we're not going to do it perfectly. This ebb I had in August flowed as my ability to live in peace within my ebb or flow grows. I wasn't able to do that last February. It was really awkward. I tried to do it for like a week, and it was just really awkward for me. But I kept thinking about it and how the importance of it was. And then when I gave myself a full 3 weeks this last time, I grew in my ability to really embrace and have peace and maximize my time of ebb. And so the next time I do it, it'll probably even better. So we have to give ourselves grace to grow in our ability to go deeper in peace and in revelation of something we're trying to do. And this applies to anything, whether it's painting or writing or whatever it is that your hobby or your business is. We have to allow ourselves to grow in that. And I know I'm really focusing on ebb on this. I think it's because we are all so good at flowing, that we flow haphazardly, that for me personally, I really needed to focus on ebb So I don't think I'm going to talk about flow today because I think I'm in a place where I really need to, where I am currently learning how to flow more efficiently and to flow out of ebb or a place of peace. My friend and I call it work from a place of rest. And that's what flow is. And that is where I am in that season of learning how to flow from my ebb. I hope that makes sense. And I hope this is helpful for you. You don't have to be a business person to really benefit from this. You could be a homeschooling mom or just a mom, a soccer mom, or, or a baseball mom or dance mom, whatever that is. We all have so much going on. We all have multiple hats, or I know we have a lot of male readers. And so I don't, men, I don't want to forget you. And a lot of them are retired. So, you still have flow in you. I think some people, when we get to a certain age or season, I keep finding paint. And we think there's nothing left to do. You retired. I don't believe in retirement. In the sense that there's nothing left for us to do. So for those of you men maybe who are older and you don't have your careers anymore, you still have seasons of ebb and flow. You've probably been in a season of ebb for such a long time, you've forgotten how to flow. So I encourage you to go back and get this issue if you don't have it. If you have it, go back and read it, highlight it, really think about what she has to say, and then do this worksheet. And then try wherever you're at. If you think you need an ebb, try it. Pick, a day or a week, whatever you want to do. But if you know that you've kind of been in a period of rest and, inactivity or whatever, focus on flow. How can you flow? How can you take what you have been doing in your time, your season of pause or rest? What can you take from that and turn it into a flow? So we'll come back to this another time when I have learned more about flow, and we'll revisit this. So gosh, thanks for watching. Pass this on to people. And like I said, you don't have to have the magazine to benefit from this conversation, but it certainly is helpful. So thanks for watching. Go get a copy of issue number 4 and share with me in the comments below what you think about ebb and flow. All right, until next time, we'll see you soon.